The good news of the gospel is that we are justified by faith alone apart from works, that we are made righteous apart from works by faith alone, that the forgiveness of sins is by faith alone once for all time. We're justified, we're washed, our sins are forgiven, and we're made righteous or put into a right relationship with God by nothing that we do. And there's nothing that we need to add to it later on. Jesus has all the skin in the game. We have zero, but we reap all of the benefits by faith apart from works. Let's talk.
You're listening to the UnSunday Show.
Leaving behind religious obligation to find a more authentic expression of Christ in us. This is the UnSunday Show.
Hello, friends. Mike Adams here with the UnSunday Show. You know, the message of the gospel is all good news. The gospel itself, or the word gospel itself, simply means good news. And guess what? There is no bad news in the good news. The problem is, once we get involved in organized religious systems, the message of the gospel, the message of the good news that we may have heard at the beginning, begins to morph. It begins to change. And it changes into bad news. Because anytime we think we have to add anything to the gospel, anything that we can do to make ourselves more acceptable to God, or to cleanse ourselves from sin or from unrighteousness or from ungodliness on our own, is bad news. It's something that is not attainable. The entire history of the Old Covenant is a testimony to that. God found fault with the people. Why? Because the people agreed to the terms of the Old Covenant. They said, all that the Lord has commanded, we will do. And yet they failed immediately. They failed to keep the terms of that covenant. And so the New Testament tells us that God found fault with the people. Anytime that we attempt to work for our position with God, or work to maintain our position with God, we're doing the same thing. We're ignoring the unilateral nature of the new covenant. Unlike the old covenant, where God made a covenant with the people and the people agreed to it, the new covenant is unilateral. It's between God and God. It's between the Father and the Son. We had nothing to do with it. There was nothing that we had to agree to. We have and had no part in the making of that covenant. In Old Testament times, covenants were commonplace. They would be between different parties, or different groups of people, or different individuals, where they would covenant with one another, and both parties would agree to the terms of the covenant. But when it comes to the new covenant, we're told that because there was no one greater than God, God swore by himself. In other words, he swore an oath and he made a promise that the new covenant would save a people based on the finished work of Jesus, on the sacrificial death of Jesus, apart from anything the recipients of the covenant, you and I, should do or fail to do. Remember in the Gospels, and I don't remember exactly where this is, I don't have it in front of me, I should have looked it up ahead of time, but hey, I didn't. But sometimes my memory is like a steel trap. So you'll remember that time in the Gospels when that group of people came up to Jesus and said, "What must we do to do the works of God?" Remember that? Do you remember Jesus' reply? I mean, here they were. They showed up. They had their notepads out. They had their iPads out. They're ready to take notes. Jesus, tell us what we have to do the works of God. They must have been both flabbergasted, there's a word I haven't used in a while, and disappointed at Jesus' response. Because you remember Jesus' response was simply, "This is the work of God, that you believe on the one whom God has sent. That's how we become righteous. We become righteous apart from works. We're put into a right relationship with God apart from works, by faith alone, simply by believing. But like I alluded to a moment ago, when we get inside the box church, when we get inside religion, that message changes. All of a sudden, it's up to us to maintain our position with God. And if we're not exhibiting the right kind of good works, and by good works, I simply mean those works which have been sanctioned by those supposedly in authority over us in a religious setting. In other words, if I don't look a certain way, my faith is called into question, and there's a big debate that starts going on about whether or not I'm a believer. I've seen this happen numerous times, and it's all because we don't understand the gospel. We think the gospel is something that gets us in the door, but then after that, our sanctification, as I talked about last week, is up to us. One popular author within the Christian community compared church with a gymnasium. In fact, he called organized church, organized religion, God's gymnasium. It's where we go to get a spiritual workout. But in my Bible, we're told that Jesus gives us rest, not a workout. He doesn't give us a workout regimen to get busy on. He gives us rest. He told those around him that his burden is light, his yoke is easy, and he came to give us rest. But in organized religion, we don't get a lot of rest. Why? Because we don't understand that we have been made righteous forever by faith alone, apart from works. That's not enough. That's not good enough for us. There has to be something we can do. Just like that group of people that came to Jesus and asked him what they must do to do the works of God, we're the same way. We come to him thinking, well, there's something more that we need to do. I need to be able to contribute something. But that's not true. There's absolutely nothing that you and I can contribute to add to what's been done for us on the cross. When Jesus cried out those last words of his on the cross, "It is finished," he meant it. It really is finished. Again, he has all the skin in the game. I have none. He has all the skin in the game, and you have none. But for some reason, we are unable to just relax into that, to just rest into that, to just relax into his grace. That's too hard for us because we want to do something. That's how we're wired. But that's not the gospel. The gospel says that we are made righteous by faith, our sins are forgiven by faith, we are justified by faith once and for all time. I wish that I would have known that as a young believer. I wish that someone would have said that to me as a young believer and reminded me of that. But I know it now. I understand it now. And that's the message that I want to share with you today, is that justification is by faith alone, apart from any kind of work. Any kind of work. Whether it's helping little old ladies across the street, or trying to keep one or more of the 10 Commandments, or of some other principle in the Old Covenant law, which, by the way, has been abolished, has been done away by the grace of God, and is no longer in place. I don't know, maybe we find security there somehow, but it's a letter that kills, to use Paul's phraseology. So the gospel is the good news. And once again, there is no bad news in the good news. So I wanted to just share that with you. That's something that's been on my mind the last couple of days. And I wanted to just come in here, short and sweet, and just remind you that this is what we have in Jesus. This is ours in Jesus. And it's never going to be taken away. It's never going to not be enough. It's never going to be insufficient. You are sufficient in Him, and you will never not be in Him. So remember that today. Remember that today as you're going through whatever you're going through today, that the Father loves you unconditionally, and He has made you completely righteous and completely whole by faith alone. So I'll let you go, and until next time, you all take care.
Thank you for joining us on the UnSunday show. To be a part of this ongoing conversation, visit us online at unsunday.com.